Well, what a wonderful winter's day to welcome everyone. I hope the discussion won't get too heated. But in the meantime, I also hope that we'll learn so much from this that exports will become a red hot topic. I'm very glad to introduce you to Isak Breitenbach from the SA Poultry Association and Gerald Walters, the Commercial Director of Sovereign Foods. We've unfortunately had a last minute cancellation from Donald McKay because he has a client crisis and paying clients come first. We understand that. We also invited the Export Association, Army, and several government officials who declined, but we'll keep inviting them. And I think today's topic is particularly important against the news that we had some time ago that South Africa now has the second most competitive poultry industry in the world. So if you are the second most competitive, the expectation should be that South Africa is a chicken export powerhouse. Strangely, we're not. And in this seminar, we'll explore solutions, and we're very happy to have two experts who can help us understand what must be done to grow the poultry industry and by default then as the biggest agricultural sector in South Africa, grow GDP, grow jobs, and make South Africa a better place than it is right now. Other countries, of course, support their exporters. In fact, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, has just published a report where they pointed out that nearly 60% of Chinese companies' global market share gains since 2005 could be attributed to subsidies. And that overall, global subsidies hit 108 billion in 2024. And 52% of those subsidies were in China for Chinese companies. But the OECD also points out that large and persistent industrial subsidies can distort global markets, can create unfair competitive advantages, and can contribute to excess supply capacity. In fact, we at the Fair Play Trade Movement have been saying that for years. We call it predatory trade, undercutting local producers for the sake of becoming price givers instead of price takers. However, this is why we're quite excited about South Africa becoming a chicken exporter of note. And that is because our industry is highly competitive, doesn't need to dump, and we believe that not only is the industry playing within the WTO rules, but Fair Play will continue to fight predatory trade, particularly in poultry, because there are good reasons to do so. Now, the 2026 Poultry Master Plan, Phase 2, has been released, and I would like to turn for answers about the poor export performance of South Africa. In fact, chicken exports in 2025 were lower than in 2019. So almost nothing has happened since 2019. What is going to be different with the Phase 2 poultry master plan and the intentions to grow our export performance? Isak, could you explain the rise of our poultry in the competitive rankings to become a strategic national asset of excellence? And also, if you could help us understand the export drive in Phase 2 of the master plan and whether you think Phase 2 will be the solution. Over to you.
Thank you, Francois. For me, I think it's important to look back 10 years ago. 10 years ago, this poultry industry was in distress. We did not make enough money at the time to reinvest in the industry. And this particular industry became smaller year on year, and our per capita consumption was taken away by imports. So really, an industry in distress, an industry not geared for exports. But since then, since 2019, when the first master plan was signed, fortunes of this particular industry has changed materially. This industry now, as we sit here today, has grown 26% since 2019. The industry has invested 2.1 billion rand in additional capacity. That has all been taken up. This industry has positioned itself as a globally competitive industry at that time, and certainly an industry to be proud of. If we look at the Wageningen study and BFAP study that was recently released in December 2025, it points to a very competitive industry, and an industry that is continuously making progress year on year. This industry is the industry with the lowest feed consumption ratio in the world. No one can compete with us. But the ultimate measure probably is the cost to produce a kilogram of chicken meat. Over the last 13 years that we've been doing this study, we've improved year on year on year. And this year, for the first time, we have produced chicken cheaper than the United States of America. We have been producing chicken cheaper than the European Union for the last 13 years. Yet these companies or countries can dump chicken in South Africa at the cost of about 50% of the production cost of South Africa. But we've addressed that particular issue through the anti-dumping duties that we obtained. And that put this industry on a path to grow. But that's not all that we've done. During that period of time, the industry has invested heavily, and we've created 120,000 tons of cooking capacity for poultry meat that never existed. So if we talk about this industry is ready to export cooked meat to different countries in the world, but yet we are not doing it. It is important for us to note that this is a strategic objective for the poultry industry. If there is one thing that will change this grain value chain materially, it would be exports. We have local demand that is stagnating, and we need to open up new markets to export to our cooked meat. And what we really have here is a citrus industry that can export vast amount of chicken. We can compete globally in the markets that we have identified and become a net exporter of chicken meat. And that certainly would be our objective. But we are constrained. If we look at the current export status, we have the UK, which inspected South Africa, but a year later we don't have an outcome on the inspection. We've invited the European Union to come and inspect the chicken facilities in South Africa with the eye of exporting to the EU. We've submitted all the documentation to the EU, and we're not exporting. And then Saudi Arabia. We have also submitted all our documentation and are merely awaiting an inspection by Saudi Arabia. So if we look at the potential for exports for South African chicken companies, we're really constrained, and we really have one hurdle, and that is to get these countries to come and inspect South Africa and find that we can comply with their rigorous requirements and therefore start our exports. I would like to conclude in saying that this is a strategic change. This is the point where we establish a similar scenario than what we've had with the citrus industry, where a very competitive industry actually start to export and then grow their exports. Thank you, Francois.
Thank you, Isak. I'd be, in question time, particularly interested to know what the Department of Trade and Industry and DIRCO are doing to help you break through and get reaction from the UK, from Europe, and from Saudi. But first, let us now turn to Gerald Walters from Sovereign, South Africa's leading chicken exporter. And Gerald, why don't you help us understand how to do it?
Yeah, so hello, everybody. So, I mean, I think, like, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, Sovereign embarked on a strategic mission, if I could put it that way. And we said that pretty much what Isak said is our passion is to export, right? We need to export because the stagnated growth in South Africa. And for us to grow, we need to get some sort of value somewhere else. And so we embarked on a very, our appetite was hungry to export. We identified certain regions and certain areas. And for us, initially, was the Gulf area, because of the access for us to get into the Gulf region and the GCC area. I think what many guys don't understand in our industry is that we are very, besides the competitiveness, we hold products that none of the world can actually supply. And the world wants certain of our products. And I'm talking turning to things like bird size. We've got ideal bird sizes for certain products in the world. We've got flexibility. Our production capabilities are superior to most guys in the world. So we are attractive. So we basically just went out there and said, okay, where can we get into? And obviously the Gulf region was the best suited for us because they're being net importers of poultry. They can't grow their own, obviously from a geographical point of view. So we identified that area and we went in there and aggressively started marketing. So I think one of the key points for us is patience. This thing doesn't happen overnight. And I'm talking from a sovereign point of view. I can't really talk on behalf of the industry, but from a sovereign point of view, we had to be very, very patient. And we started slowly but surely getting into that market, getting access. And also, the benefit for South Africa is in that region, is our halal disciplines. Now, I mean, what we call double halal, because we hand slaughter. No one else in the world only hand slaughters. So they're very, very keen on our product because of the halal disciplines and the food safety programs that we adhere to. So, I mean, from there, then you got to identify customers. I think that's where people go wrong is like, well, yes, I've got access, but who am I going to sell to? So you got to identify customers. And that took us a good couple of years to get to those customers. We've got a nice sound base of customers in that region now. And then on top of that, you need to invest. So investment doesn't just come from funding or monetary value. It comes from time, comes from, spending time there, travels, just marketing, getting your product out there, getting to the customer base. And then obviously we decided as Sovereign to physically invest in brick and mortar there and assets. So about 4 years ago, we've got now a Dubai-based company. It's based in Dubai. We've got offices, we've got warehousing, we've got distribution. So we basically self-sufficient in that area now. And if you know the Emirates, there's 7 Emirates. There's a trade-free Emirate, which is called Ajman, and that's really where our facilities lie. So it was slow, but it was progressive, and now it's fast because we're getting a name there. We're getting the ability to market. People want our product. I don't know, for some reason, we're just getting our product there now in these times where most of the countries aren't able to get it in there. So, and we've worked hard to get that asset on the ground. Let me tell you, as an industry, it's very lucrative. And I think our industry, and I'm, just careful what I say, but I think our industry has just been also a little bit scared to take that leap. And one of the issues is that we don't really have help. We don't have assistance. If we don't do it ourselves, I mean, I go and sit in the MOCA, which is the Ministry of Dubai. I go and sit in their offices and I talk to their vets myself. I literally go sit there whenever I'm there in 2 weeks' time again. I actually go and sit there myself, speak to the vets, help. And they're very, very helpful, but we don't have that assistance locally. We just don't get that. We just don't get that help. And I might be very, not naive, if I can put it that way. And I don't want to step on anyone's toes, but that's reality. We've been talking for years now. We've tried to follow the red meat sort of guy's path where we say, what did they do that we can do? And we did do that, and it's helped us to get into that Gulf region. And it's worked out very well, but it's all our own doing. And nobody's here to assist us. We got to do it ourselves. And we had to work hard to do it. And the access now for us is, and Isak was right in saying, the next the next market for us must be KSA. Okay, so KSA is a massive market. They're also growing. I mean, the population growth and the GDP growth is phenomenal. And we've got access. We just need access. We've got customers set up there already. I mean, I've got customers that are buying from into Dubai Gulf that are situated in the KSA that want the product. We can supply them. We just need access, and that access, I don't truly know if we're pushing it from a country point of view. If we're pushing it, I don't see it. I push as hard as I can. I don't see any reciprocal, guys that are teams that are helping us out there from a government point of view. And I'm very critical about that. I must say, I'm critical about the abilities that, or the support that we get from the government departments. It's literally non-existent, and I'm saying it. So the frustration is there, but also on the other hand is, if they give you access, which they have, like the Gulf, it's for us as an industry to tap into that. And we certainly have tapped into that, and we've seen a good growth there. We're growing nicely, and we're not putting pressure on the local market, which is a positive for us. And all that growth that we see that's coming through from us is going into that export market. So we're going to continue. We're going there again. We're opening new mainland offices. So we're going to continue driving that. But I think from 2 points, in my view, is we need more access to other markets. And Isak mentioned that, and I said KSA. Another one is the Chinese market. These aren't difficult markets to get into. We just need government assistance. So there's certain cuts that is very lucrative for us as an industry into China. And then obviously from a KSA point of view, just the massive growth that we can achieve from them. Yes, there's others like the UK and Europe, and strangely enough, they're going to run out of space in Europe soon in terms of poultry. So they are looking to purchase elsewhere, and that's where we fit in nicely. But yeah, I think that's it. Is we're not sitting back. Sovereign's not sitting back. It's our main aim is to get 10 to 15% of our volumes into export. We're halfway there, so it's not like it's not achievable. So yeah, I think that's from an industry. I can't talk on the other guys, but I think from an industry point of view, we see that frustration. We're not getting the help. We're a strategic asset, as we're told, for the country, but we're not really seeing that filter through into operations. So yeah, but I think thanks for having us. I think anything that can help as an industry, we will certainly take it on. And yeah, from a sovereign point of view, we definitely carrying on. We're fighting the fight, and we're making it win.
That's
Thanks.
very encouraging. And just for the sake of clarity, by KSA you mean the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia?
Yeah. Sorry, yes. So if you know that we've done a lot of research into those areas, obviously, and there's, yeah, I mean, if you don't know, then you're sleeping under a rock, But there's definitely a lot of growth there for us, and I mean that country is growing just phenomenally.
It's so encouraging. I want to also encourage our webinar attendees. If you have any questions you want to pose so long, please use the chat line, the webinar chat line, and pose them, or give an indication that you would like to ask a question in person, and we can turn to you. But let me ask you, Isak, how often have you had phone calls from DTIC and Durko to say there's a hot new market here called the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia? Can we take you there?
So the quick answer is never.
Never.
But
that's
the
quite
real phone call. The real phone call should actually come at this point where we are with exports, would come from Department of Agriculture. When I say that we are awaiting inspections, it's not actually inspecting the industry and its facilities. It is inspecting the ability of the Department of Agriculture to enforce the requirements of the importing countries. So that is really where the big bottleneck is. We would appreciate assistance from DTIC and DIRCO to further this process and deal with our counterparts overseas to get these activities done.
Now, help us understand what the phase 2 of the master plan says about the goals for the country, and I assume who are the signatories. It's not only SAPA and DTIC, there are others, agricultural and so on. Just help us understand a bit where the master plan positions exports.
There are a couple of strategic initiatives for the industry to be able to grow, and they all are interlinked. I think the very first one that we are talking about is exports. We need to export. We need to open up a new market for South African companies because we've got a mature local market in terms of chicken consumption. Secondly, we need to vaccinate against highly pathogenic avian influenza because it not only impacts the country and the disease and the producers and decimate chickens, but it also stops our exports. So, and there is a way that we can vaccinate and still export. So we need to get to the point where most of the chickens in South Africa is vaccinated. A third point in here is to increase local capacity, and the industry will be launching a new project on the 1st of July, where we will market this industry to consumers with the aim of increasing per capita consumption of chicken locally. So having mentioned these objectives, you can see that they're all interlinked. Exports will do what was said earlier, what Gerald said earlier, in giving us more value for the carcass. If we can export and sell cooked chicken breast into other markets, that will increase the value of the carcass for local companies. So an absolutely key driver in the second master plan that we've just recently signed is absolutely that. You asked about the constituents within the master plan. It varies greatly. It's the poultry industry, it is AMI, the meat importers and exporters, it's the trade unions, it's contract growers as a constituent. There are various parties. I think we are 40 different parties that signed this particular agreement. The sad story is that we had this in the first master plan, exports. And since then, we've been working on exports. And obviously, it's a high priority in the second master plan.
Well, it seems to me from the question, at least the first question, that there's a real step up that's needed. Andries Fourie asks, he says, the most frustrating part for me is the interface between local state vets and national, especially with regard to South African registrations, export status of farms. It seems like no one takes direct accountability, and national does not want us to take it up directly with them. This causes registrations to lapse, even though audits are done 3 to 4 months before lapsing. Is there any room for independents like FSA to rather do inspections? It doesn't seem like local state vets have the capacity or the drive to do it. Some work extremely hard to assist us, but there are lots of bad apples. Isak, how do we deal with the bad apples?
Francois, if we talk about the capacity to facilitate exports, it's lacking. Specifically at the provincial veterinary level, we do not have the veterinarians to do the necessary inspections and facilitate the process and make the process streamlined for us to easily do that. But what we have discussed with the Department of Agriculture is a form of privatization, where certain functions like inspections and certification can be done by an external assignee like the FSA, the Food Safety Agency. The Food Safety Agency already has veterinarians working nationally, and obviously that capacity can be extended should we be as a country on a vast export drive? So yes, we have problems. I think that there are ways of privatizing the problems and sort out and then get it done through agencies like the Food Safety Agency.
Only in South Africa can you hear a phrase like privatize the problems, because the solutions are already privatized. It's only the problems that have to be privatized. Thank you, Isaac. That's a very good oversight. Gerald, Karin Creer of Landbou Weekblad has a question for you. She asks, what cuts or kind of products does Sovereign export? And are they in a compartment so that if we have a bird flu outbreak, they can continue exporting?
I was actually going to mention that post Isaac's comments there. So I don't want to get into detail, but the question is relevant. So just to the first question is what cuts? So it varies. So, and that's why I said earlier is we've sought after, our product is sought after in those regions because we can give you small portions, we can give you bigger portions, we can give you a combination. And if you look at the biggest export in the world is Brazil, and they only basically do one cut and they just send deboned meat. And their birds are very big. So yes, it suits certain markets, but in other markets, it doesn't suit because the portions are too big. So that's when we come in, we say, right, we got a smaller portion for you, which is obviously more calibrated, and we're a lot more flexible around our production. So we do the commodities, if I can put it that way, the white meat, breast meat, which is something in South Africa we've always had an issue with to try and sell. And there we get, the better sort of revenues for it, going into that area. We do sort of leg portions, which is smaller for the restaurants and the hotels, and they want a smaller size leg quarter, so you get a better price for it, for example, whereas the Brazilians are too big, so they can't really, portions are too big, so they don't use them locally in that region. And then obviously we very large with fully cooked products. So we've got a processing facility. We do quite a large portion of our product that goes into fully cooked coated or fully cooked non-coated, and we send a lot there. So, for example, we in all the HMR, the QSR outlets in the Carrefour, if you know Carrefour retailer in the Gulf, we supply them all their cooked, coated, and uncoated chicken for their delis. That goes through an agency of ours. So there's numerous products. I mean, it's just there's because it's such a diverse population in that area, in that region. There's numerous products that you can supply. There's not only one product that fits all. So that's what makes it so lucrative for us, because we've got a combination of any product that we can supply. And for them, I can give them a small chicken, a big portion, a small portion. We've also invested a lot in calibration. So we calibrate fillets for them, certain sizes that they could use for their reprocessing. So there's a big reprocessing industry in that area where they buy in because they can't get their own, and they reprocess into their own sort of nuggets and whatever they need to do. So that's what we supply, calibrated, and you get higher margins because obviously you're supplying them with a product that not the rest of the world can. And I think that's apt for our discussion is, guys, we produce products that the rest of the world don't. We produce certain cuts that the rest of the world aren't interested in, and that's what we tap into, is that niche type of products that we can actually get better margins for, and obviously get the product out there and obviously secure export revenue. And bearing in mind also, what I wanted to touch base on is export is important for us because as a chicken industry, a lot of our costs are forex costs. So it's currency costs. So we pay a lot in dollars. So why don't we earn dollars? So we, for example, earn dollars now. So there's that trade-off in saying, well, a lot of our costs are dollar-based. Now, at least a lot of our revenue is dollar-based. I hope that answers most of it. Oh, sorry. The second question was, the frustrating for us is the compartments. So you're 100% right. That is the biggest frustration for us. So we've tried the Department of Agriculture to do compartments. So if you look at Namibia allow us to do compartments of a 30-kilometer radius. So Dubai allows that for Brazil and all other countries, but they don't allow it for us. Their compartments are regions. so provinces. So the Eastern Cape, for example, is a province. That's a compartment. But we can change it. Okay, and I'll sit with Mocha, and they're saying, well, we just need sign off from the Department of Agriculture, and no problem, we'll implement that. But we just don't get it done, right? So I'm talking from a Department of Agriculture point of view. We just don't get that done, and that's the frustration, because we can have, if you know, ostriches in Somerset East gets bird flu, which is 400 kilometers away from us. They close the whole province, and if you know ostriches, they're carriers. They don't die from the disease. They just carry it, and the slaughter process with them is 2 years. So you're going to wait 2 years before they lift that compartment. So that is the frustration. But fortunately for Sovereign, we've got multiple provinces, so we don't just trade in one province or slaughter in one province. So we've got Gauteng, etc., etc. So we fine for the moment, but we're pushing hard with the Department of Agriculture to shorten those compartments. Okay, and that's the frustration part for us. So our main aim at the moment is to cut down on those compartments to the 30-kilometer radius. So yeah, that's where we are at the moment.
Well, before I ask Isak to shed some more light on a theme that I hear, let me just remind our audience, if you want a question answered, please go ahead, write your question in the open chat line called Q&A, and we'll ask our panel to answer every question while we have time. But Isak, a theme seems to be that there's a problem somewhere in the Department of Agriculture, perhaps in other departments as well, in terms of getting things done. Have you brought this to the attention of the minister? Have you had conversations with him? Has the minister a plan to address it?
We certainly have discussed this with the minister. We've only had one discussion with the Minister of Agriculture in March this year, and that was one of the points that we've discussed. The minister actually, before our meeting even, mentioned in a press release that they will be appointing more veterinarians to the department to improve the shortage of skills that they currently experience in the department. I think the problem for us is that it is still continuing. We are still not making progress on the matters that we are dealing with. And certainly, if we meet with the minister again, and we plan to meet with the minister every 6 months, that will be high on the agenda. Will be the skill shortage and the delivery times that we have from the department.
Isak, thank you for that answer. I must say it's not that encouraging. It's really a concern because the GNU has now been in place for a while. The ministers have been in their portfolios for a while. And there's this theme of a lack of communication and a lack of performance at the same time. Koi Botha has a question for you, Gerald. He said, Gerald has mentioned that they not only invested their time, but also brick and mortar. Since the KSA is such a lucrative growing market, going into the future, will they, I presumably meaning the industry or Sovereign, ever invest in processing facilities in order to overcome the exporting challenges?
Don't want to give away our secrets on this forum, but yeah, so yes and no. So yes, we are. We are looking at, obviously, we're well advanced into that process. So we currently busy looking at facilities in that area, excuse me, processing facilities, which we are actually going there in 2 weeks' time to go and address. So we're actively pursuing it, yes. KSA, a little bit more difficult, and we need to just get access first as an industry before we will, excuse me, look at putting down processing facilities. But yes, processing facilities, we definitely on the cards. Excuse me.
Well, that's good to know. Isak, let me just circle back to If you had a wish list, what are the first things that you would like various government departments involved with your industry to solve? What's the priority list for agriculture, for DTIC, for DIRCO?
It is obvious. We would like that exports are facilitated, and we've escalated the export issues that we have to the office of the minister. We would like the minister and or DIRCO to intervene and in a way enforce that we get feedback from these countries, because that is really as simple as it is, what the next steps would be. That will be the one issue that we would like to address. What Gerald brought up in terms of the compartmentalization, that is a second issue that will facilitate exports, and we need to do that. The third one that we've also escalated to the desk of the minister, and we all saw the press release of yesterday, is vaccination. And vaccination is key to exports for us. There is a way that we know that we can carry on with our exports while we vaccinate our chickens. But what will happen is that once we vaccinate most of the chickens that we have, we will be in a position to reduce the total amount of infections. In other words, the total amount of positive birds and positive areas, and therefore exports will be able to carry on as we envisage it. So really, at the moment, what we would need would need to come from the Minister of Agriculture and DTIC.
Now, in follow-up to what you've said, the master plan seems to require the government to do something. The industry is already highly competitive. It would seem that, South Africa Incorporated, Team South Africa, needs its government to be part of the team. And that doesn't always seem to be the case. If the current situation prevails, do you think there's any chance of meeting the goals set out in the master plan phase 2 for exports, which, if I recall, has a certain percentage of growth in the first 3 years and then a growing percentage of growth thereafter for the next 7 years? What do you think?
We need support from government, all facets of government. If we compare ourselves with other countries in the world, Brazil, the government intervened and caused the consolidation of that industry to make them competitive, to be the export powerhouse that they are today. Total government support. If we look at the American export drive, where producers subsidize feed for export chickens, total support for that industry. When our government talked to Minister Trump, they want market access for American chicken in South Africa. When we talk about China, and China exports a lot of chicken, they subsidize chicken exports. Again, a lot of government support. South Africa, nothing. We don't get subsidized for any projects that we run. In the case of avian influenza, we do not get reimbursed in terms of the law for the chickens that we culled. So no support from government.
That might be the minister. It might be the minister, Isaac.
That might be.
Answer, Isaac, answer.
So we need to get government support. What we get is a competitions commission's inquiry into the industry, instead of looking at ways to grow the industry and support the actions within the poultry master plan.
Well, it's very clear where the problem lies. It's also clear where the solution lies. The solution is in the hands of civil servants and politicians in these specific portfolios. But Gerald, you have found a way of getting your exports going. What would your advice be to any South African poultry producer that wants to export, knowing that there's no help coming from government?
Yeah, so obviously, as I said initially, it's you need a customer, right? So the customer helps you to overcome most of these type of synopsises or disturbances. So if you have a customer that's very interested in your product and they can put pressure on their vets, who then in turn puts pressure on our vets. Remembering, we also ourselves brought out the MOCA inspectors into our plants to come and inspect our plants. It wasn't done by government. So we had to get the guys out to do the inspection. We have it once a year still, and we resolve those issues directly with them. But there's certain things that you're restricted to. So we lucky. We worked hard to sort those issues out for the Gulf area, but it ain't going to be that easy for the rest of the world. Excuse me. It ain't going to be that easy for the rest of the world if we want to tap into to access that, because as Isak said, there are strict requirements that these countries require us to adhere to, and we can't sign it off as a company. We've got to sign it off as a government and as an industry. So, so for our growth appetite and where we want to go, we're going to need more assistance from the government. Yes, we've done great, and we've got good facilities over there. We're doing well. We've got a good customer base. We've got a good product. The market wants our product. They pay higher for our product than the rest of the world because they know what they get. And all this food safety and halal, and we've ticked all those boxes, and we're going to look at a reprocessing facility, and we're going to carry on. But the next step must be access to the bigger consumers of poultry. And I'm saying, for example, KSA and China. I know they're big exporters, but there's certain cuts that we oversupply in South Africa that they undersupplied in China, and obviously you get higher revenues for those products also. And there's a lot of waste that we have, but also from a growth aspect, we need to, as an industry, we can't just stay stagnant. We need to grow. I mean, it's like anybody. So, as Isak said, we've started growing, but we had time of stagnation, and we need to trigger that. But I think just stay from us. I mean, from a company point of view, stay positive. Know that it's worked, and it's not something we dream about. It's something that's happened, and it's something that's happening. And I mean, every week we're sending vessels and containers out there, and it's working nicely for us. So let's just stay positive and let's just keep putting pressure on them, as much as we can, just to hear our voice. I think that's the main thing. We mustn't just give up. I think that's the song or the message to the industry. Let's carry on. Let's not just only be frustrated. When there's challenges, there's opportunities, and we've seen that now. Definitely with the war that's going on in that region, we thought, okay, well, what now? And it raised a lot of opportunities for us, and we've got more market access now. So there's definitely just a sense of, guys, we work together. Let's put the pressure on the government, which we are. I mean, I think we must do more, but let's also just see it as great opportunity, and we can, we've accessed it. So let's stay positive.
That sounds very encouraging. There's a question which I think either of you could answer from Michael Acott, to say the discussion has been about cooked chicken, but what about frozen raw meat and chicken portions, for instance, to the EU? Gerald, would you like to answer that? Or?
Yeah, no, sorry. The fully cooked product is very limited that we export. So we fully coated a lot of crumb chicken, and we do very, very small numbers in non-coated, fully cooked product. Mostly 85%, 90% of it is all raw that goes over there. So it's not cooked. I think where Isak is going to is the opportunity is for us to do fully cooked, okay, into the EU or the UK, which is a big market for them. So that's a big opportunity from the UK point of view. But the rest of the countries and the places where we are at the moment, it's mostly raw. So yes, we definitely is mostly a raw chicken supply.
Well, maybe we could organize a big chicken braai and invite all the ministers who we need to talk to and all the civil servants who need to be on our team and see if we can't thaw the atmosphere a little bit so that there's so much more to be done and
No, for
as
sure.
South Africa to reach an outcome. I don't see any more questions from our attendees. So, unless there's a new question that comes up in the next 30 seconds or so, I'm going to close it down. But let me give each of you the opportunity to have the last word, starting with you Gerald, your last word.
Yeah, I think just from a SARP point of view, there's a lot of work, thanks to Isak and your team. There's a lot of work going behind the scenes. You've done a great job when you took over, and it's helped us from a sovereign point of view to yeah, just to be more active. And I know, like we say, we're very frustrated, but you know, I like frustration because there must be a solution. So we must be able to find a solution. We've got there. We sort of baby steps. There's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but there is at least steps. And I think just with the industry being in a better space in terms of just where we are and growth, I think we can make our voice louder and appeal to the whole industry that we just carry on, voicing our concerns, being out there, trying to be in everybody's faces, and then as SARPA, obviously, just continue with that great job and get us over the line better. I think just in closing, I think we all know, but what they don't think realize is that we are obviously the biggest consumers of maize in the country. So, without the poultry industry, there's no maize industry and there's no feed industry. So, I don't know if a lot of the times that sinks in, but I do think that we need to keep pushing our voice and make it heard. Thanks everybody for joining.
These are all very important points. And when I listen to you and about taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back and persevering, you remind me that someone recently said to me that, being a South African is not only an identity, it's a skill. And you have certainly proved that you have lots of South African skill in the DNA of your organization.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Isak to close for us. Isak, there are 2 options. The one option is that our government steps up and helps. The other option is that the government does not step up and help. What is SAPA's plan in either scenario?
Francois, I think the quick answer is that we're not at the end of a process. We have not accepted that we can't make progress in terms of exports. We're at the start of the process. And I maintain to say that we can be a big exporter in time to come, like the citrus industry. They also started with the first orange export many years ago. And that is what we need to achieve. We certainly haven't run out of ideas, and we are certainly very busy in discussion with the Department of Agriculture, DTIC, DIRCO, all the time to facilitate these processes. I must admit that we do get good feedback and good responses from Minister Steenhuisen himself and his officers relating to this, although it's still a bit slower than what we would expect it to be. There's a positive relationship, and I believe that we can actually leverage that, and that is what we will do for the future.
Well, on that positive note, proving once again that being South African is a skill, you're certainly displaying a lot of resilience there, Isak, in making this work. We look forward to a great chicken braai with everyone who can make a difference to form a team South Africa, and maybe Fair Play will make some effort in organizing the great Team South Africa chicken braai. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us. Thank you to everyone who attended. I often wonder whether we're going to get people, and then I'm astonished to see how many people we get and how many of the people who attend, all of them, very important for getting our message across and for helping South Africa to succeed. Wishing you all the best, and if it's cold where you are, please stay warm.
Cheers.
Thank you.